First of all, I express my sincere gratitude to Professor Bedre sir, Director, MMTTC, Sri Dr. Hari Singh Gaur, Central University, Sagar, Madhya Pradesh. I am also thankful to the principal and the organizing committee of Nutan Maratha College, Jalgaon, and all my dear participants of this NEP sensitization program. Friends, the topic assigned to me is very relevant, useful, and it will be an eye-opener for all of us. Because being the teachers of different universities and colleges, we keep performing on different arenas of academics. It's not like we only teach in the classes, or else we get involved into different academic and extracurricular activities of the institution. But beyond that, we are constantly involved in different research publications and on-field research activities. Probably, the organizing committee has seriously thought about it, and they felt the need of the hour that the professors, associate professors, assistant professors, and all the participants of this event as well need to know about the publication ethics. And that's the reason that I have been allotted this very interesting topic titled as Publication Ethics, or else you can even enlarge it by calling Research Publication Ethics. So friends, for another 1 hour or so, we will discuss about what is publication, what do you mean by research. Parallelly, I will focus on the importance of ethics in the respect of publication, research, and the requirement of ethics in our professional life. So friends, as I said, I'm going to talk on publication ethics today. Time and again, we keep publishing our research papers in different journals, whether they are UGC care listed or not, or else they are included in the Scopus list or not, or else they are either the refereed journals or peer-reviewed journals. And recently, probably you might have heard that UGC has discarded the list of UGC care listed journals, and maybe they may come up with something new in the future. So friends, let us move towards the topic of the day. And I'm sure that each one of you is already familiar with the term publication. Just to begin with, I'm going to deal with this particular slide. And as far as publication is concerned, as you all know, that publication is the preparation and the issuing of a book, journal, or a piece of writing for public sake. It means that publication is a kind of action of making something generally known in the form of an either article, pamphlet, the content of the book, or the content of a journal or a published article in a journal, and so on. And of course, our context is limited to the publications in journals and the publications in the form of books. What are the ethics that we are supposed to follow? What are the things that we are supposed to do? And as far as the paper publication process is concerned, as it is quite visible on your screen also, and we do follow it. But don't you think that there are a few faculty members, those who keep performing at a high level, publish their research either in the Scopus listed journals or more particularly UGC Care listed journals, they get their due marks if at all you are thinking in the views of caste promotion and all. Or is those who publish in the local journals somewhere in the surrounding, somewhere in the vicinity, all get credit. But now the question is, the kind of research that we execute, the kind of research that we do, the kind of research that we perform. And here, for a couple of slides or so, I would like to talk on research itself. And I'm sure that each one of you is familiar with this. But still, let us try to understand what is expected and what we are presently doing. As far as research is concerned, research is a systematic investigation of pertinent information on a specific topic. As being a teacher of English, I do some sort of investigation, I do some sort of research in a systematic manner, limited to my own domain, or else a particular topic that I specify for myself and do something. Likewise, each one of you, as you belong to different subjects, different disciplines, different areas of your own subject itself. So what do we do? While doing research, as it is a careful inquiry, specifically through search for facts, in a branch of study, in a branch of knowledge. As I said, that somebody who is performing well in the domain of geography, in the branch of knowledge called either commerce or sciences, or else any topic that you take up. Being a researcher, we put in a kind of effort to look into the topic that we have taken up for research with a careful inquiry. And that becomes your academic contribution to the existing stock of knowledge in order to make for its advancement in the domain. If at all you try to define the concept of research in different words, you can also say that research is a kind of pursuit of truth. With the help of study, observation, experiment, you come to certain conclusions. But it's a pursuit of truth. You put in your own efforts in a very systematic way, in a very methodical way, as suggested in the research methodology, and you try to find out based on your own study, observation, experiments, and then come down to certain conclusions. So as we get involved in the process of publication, we get involved in the process of research, don't you think that being highly qualified in the domain of different areas, being the teachers, don't you think that we are expected to follow some of the ethics? So before I proceed with the ethics that we need to follow while doing any kind of publication or else while doing any kind of research, let us try to understand what do you mean by ethics. Actually, ethics is a branch of knowledge that deals with moral principles. Now, some of you may get a doubt that how to decide the moral principles. I do agree. A few standards that we find better in our country, probably the same standards may not be applicable to either American society or else African society. I do agree. But still, in the ethical point of view, when you look at this particular aspect of your own action of doing research or else or doing publications, you need to understand one thing, that the ethics or else the moral principles that govern a person's behavior or his conduct of an activity. It should be looked at very scientifically. It should be looked at very methodically. Because the moral principles or values or ethics, they do differ person to person. My moral standards may be different than your code of conduct, your principles of morality, your definition of morality. It differs. But here, our objective is to look at the publication part. Our responsibility is to do a kind of research which is based on certain moral principles and ethical values which are not only acceptable in one country, one land, but they are equally acceptable across the world. So whenever we talk about ethics or moral principles, actually it is a branch of philosophy that involves systematizing, defending, and recommending concepts of right and wrong behavior. You know, we keep talking about samskaras. Okay, we keep talking about what is righteous and what is not, what is virtuous and what are the vices. We keep talking about. Every civilization, every culture, every religion, they have their own set of standards which are recommended in the form of ethical values, moral values, or social values. So, being the professionals in teaching field, don't you think that it is our moral responsibility to give justice to everybody? Don't you think that in the ethical point of view, teachers are expected to be? So here, we need to look into this particular aspect of life so that we continue with some of the ethical values in the respect of publication or else in the respect of doing any research. As far as ethics are concerned, ethics actually refer to certain rules which are provided by some external source. What do you mean by that? See, all of us are the teachers, right? We have our own code of conduct at home. Society decides our code of conduct in the society. The institution decides its own code of conduct within the premises of your campus. Beyond that, being an individual, we each one of us decide what are the values that I am going to adhere in my professional life. That's why I said ethics refer to the rules provided by an external source. And what are these external sources? Either the values or the sanskaras of the family, the values of the society, the rule of the land or the law of the country, the institutional rules and regulations, so on and so on. Because we are bound by all these principles, whether they are religious principles, social principles, domestic principles, or institutional principles. We are constantly bound to. And here, when you talk about ethics in particular, ethics is the branch of philosophy that addresses the questions about justice and morality. Can we come to a common understanding or else unanimous decision either about justice or morality? No. Already I said, if at all you talk about the floor of the court, the way both the advocates present their cases, justice is purely dependent on it. But if you think in the ethical point of view, suppose you take an example that suppose there is a case and it is prolonged for years together, and after 15 years or 10 years or 5 years or 20 years, the justice is given. In the ethical point of view, can it be justice? Because you might have heard about the statement, a very famous proverb, justice delayed, justice denied. So on certain moral values, the justice that you get which is delayed cannot be called a genuine or a real justice. Moreover, it's like justice denied. So the point is, whenever we talk about the field of ethics in particular, you need to understand one thing, that you cannot associate this domain with others. You need to associate. The field of ethics, along with aesthetics, concerns the matters of value. Because these fields comprise the branch of philosophy which is called axiology. Anyway, I will not get into it. Because ethics and aesthetics both are a bit different arenas and areas. And I am not going to get into philosophy also. Because each one of us knows, philosophy is an abstract realm. As you get into the deep knowledge or the domain where you find that you are lost. So I am not going to talk on philosophy as such. But whenever we happen to refer to the ethics, you need to remember one thing, that there are a few very identified aspects which are directly related or associated to the code of ethics. And they are now visible on your screen also, called code of ethics. So when it comes to the code of ethics, integrity, professional competence, confidentiality, objectivity, professional behavior are considered to be the most important aspects of the codes of ethics. Whether you are working as a teacher or not, that is not important. If you are a researcher, or else you happen to publish any article, or else you happen to publish any book or a pamphlet, your integrity with the work, your commitment for the work, your honesty while doing that, that carries the weight. But while doing any kind of work, you have to have the professional competence also. Shall I tell you one thing? If you just see around, you will find one thing. What is that? Some of you may not like my statement. But we have on documents qualified people. Means they are eligible. If I complete my degree, I am graduate. Okay. If somebody completes a degree, he or she is also a graduate. It means based on a piece of paper called a degree, either degree, PG or doctorate or whatever, I become eligible. But now we need to ask a question. I may be eligible on a piece of paper, but am I competent? In Marathi, we used to call it कागदावरती पात्र असणं आणि वास्तवात लायक असणं. There is a big difference. So when you get into any kind of research or else publication activity, mind it well that you have to have the professional competence. What is the professional competence? While making publications or while doing research, it means methodically you know the code of conduct, methodically you know the code of ethics, and methodically you adopt a scientific way of doing research which is genuine and honestly done by you. And that will automatically enhance your competence level. Okay. In professional competence, you can also include how to use technology for doing research, how to use different electronic gadgets nowadays, or else how to use the library resources for your research, or else how to go to different places or fields for field work in order to get your data. You should also have a professional competence of executing a questionnaire in order to collect the data for your research, so on and so on. This is included in your professional competence. Beyond that, the most important code of ethics is maintaining the confidentiality. See, doing a loose talk or making a loose talk is not fair as far as your professional identity is concerned. Right? So whatever that you are doing, you are expected to maintain the expected confidentiality over there. But at the same time, while doing that work, ensure that you are maintaining the expected or required objectivity. And finally, already I spoke about the professional competence and all that. Finally, you need to be careful about your behavior. You know, there is a proverb in English, a man is known by the company he keeps, right? If you are in the good company, your behavior, demeanor, language, communication, personality development, your looks, outlooks, your views to the world, your perception of the world, everything matters. So, maintain a good, expected professional behavior. Let us move further. Let us try to understand a few more aspects of research ethics as such. Because research ethics fundamentally involve the application of fundamental ethical principles to research activity. Just try to understand this interconnectivity of research. Because unless you are ethical, fundamentally ethical, familiar with the values and principles of ethics, you will not be able to follow it in your own research activity. Okay. Since we are getting very good exposure to internet now, the whole world is well connected. The whole globe has become a small, one that you can confine into your own laptop or a computer. Right? But don't you think that while getting connected with the whole world by the means of Google or by the means of any other, connecting platform, because presently we are using Google Meet, right? The digital or electronic resources are abundant. But now we need to be choosy, we need to be selective. What has to be taken, what not. So your selection decides. So in the ethical point of view, research ethical point of view, it includes the design and implementation of research, respect towards society and others. You take up a research activity. But how do you do? How do you execute? What are the things that you include? If it is your own, fine. Suppose you want to go for a construction of your house and on internet you happen to just take up somebody's design, right? Okay. Is it yours? Not at all. Somebody might have designed it and put it on some of the other website or on any platform and you happen to take it up. Is it yours? Or else you are an architecture or a civil engineer and some customer happened to come to you. He requested for for a design of his home, the expected constructed home, and you happen to simply take it from internet and dump it to him that he has designed, charging 25,000 rupees for that. No. In the ethical point of view, you need to review, right? So here, whenever we use research ethics at the time of using various resources for research output, our scientific conduct and scientific misconduct decide the future of research. If you do everything, if you execute everything methodically, follow all the regulations of the research methodology, whether you are doing research in social sciences or in sciences, or else you are doing research directly related to the public and masses, whatever it may be. But the thing is, when you use these resources and try to bring out some research outputs, research findings, these findings are always affected by your own scientific conduct or else your own scientific misconduct. And that also directly or indirectly affect the rules and regulations of intellectual property right. I hope each one of you know about intellectual property rights. I will not explain all that. And if at all you say that I don't know the rule, sorry to say, no court will listen to you because you are highly educated. You are supposed to know before you do anything in the research point of view, or else you publish anything as if it is your own. So here comes the need of research ethics. Research ethics actually govern the standards of the conduct of a researcher. See, everybody is different here. As we say, 5 fingers are different in shape, different in length, different in strength, so on and so on. Likewise, we are all different. But there should be something that equally governs us. And here is the point, that is research ethics. So I say, research ethics govern the standards of conduct of a researcher, and it compels us to adhere to the ethical principles in order to protect the dignity, intellectual rights, and the welfare of the research participants. Okay? Now gradually I am trying to expand the concept of ethics as such. Once the research ethics are going to govern the standard conduct of a researcher, it will gradually compel you to adhere to the ethical principles. What are these ethical principles? I am not talking about the ethical principles required at home and in the society and elsewhere. I am talking about the ethical values, ethical principles required for the purpose of research, for the purpose of publication. That's right. Nothing beyond. Because it will protect your dignity if you adhere to the ethical principles. It will also protect the intellectual rights of the person who has done a genuine original research, either invention, discovery, or whatever it is. And it is actually the welfare of all the research participants. Because sometimes we need to work in team also. Single-handed work will not give you results quickly. So everybody's intellectual rights are being protected. And that's the reason that we need to have research ethics, and that too, we adhere to the research ethics in our professional life while either doing research or else while making any kind of publications for business. So as far as ethics are concerned, ethics are personal code of conduct, right? Already I said, like I have my own ethical values that I follow. I have my own fixed framework of life. I don't go beyond that. I don't allow to enter into. It means ethics are personal codes of conduct based on respect of oneself. See, like I said, it's mine. Yours is different. Okay. There are several aspects which affect your idea of code of conduct. I do agree with this. But as a matter of fact, you need to understand one thing and remember as well, that the ethics are governed by the principles or assumptions underpinning the way individuals or organizations ought to conduct themselves. These ethical considerations in research are a set of principles, that actually guide you either while doing designs of your research, or else you adopt certain practices over there, go to different places for your data collection, or else you go to certain field for field work, whatever it is. The question is, what is your level of integrity? The question is how committed you are. The question is how honest you are to yourself. So, this concept of research ethics involves the application of fundamental ethical principles to different research activities that we undertake in our professional life. These research activities include design and implementation of research, We need to show respect towards society and others. We need to take care of the intellectual rights of others. We do use different resources and sources in order to conduct our research. Okay. So here, if you remember one thing, excuse me, I'm sorry. If you remember one thing, that research ethics involves the application of fundamental ethical principles to different research activities which include the design and implementation of research, respect towards society and others, the use of different resources and sources in order to get your expected findings or the outputs of your research, similarly your scientific conduct and misconduct, and the regulation of research. You will realize that all these ethical aspects which are directly associated with your publication activity or its research activity do have some value in your professional life. Unless you are very, very specific, you will not be able to achieve the goal of ethics in research publication. On this slide, you could see one image that talks about integrity, principle, accountability, ethics, and value. Don't you think that we are supposed to adhere to all these in our personal, professional research life? Because all these goals of ethics, will guide the researcher to evaluate several things in his research activity. Have you ever questioned yourself? What are you researching? Means, what kind of research do you undertake? Why do you undertake that particular research? Do you test your subject the best way? The kind of hypothesis or the research question that you design, did you test it very methodically by following the rules and regulations of research methodology as such? Have you ever thought that the number of research papers which are going to your credit, did you follow the proper protocol over there? Have you ever thought that the kind of study that you have undertaken, it is of course the best in the interest of the society? But shall I tell you one thing? Most of the research that we undertake or else publish, it remains there only in the libraries. It is not revealed either to the other researchers, scholars, teachers, or the common men and women of the society. It hardly comes out. Just ask this question to yourself. For how many times the published article by you is circulated either by WhatsApp or any other social media platform to a number of acquaintances that you have? How many of us do it? Ask this question to yourself. Or else, how many of you have undertaken a research related to your own land, related to your own place where you work? I mean to say, the geographical location, or else the vicinity of the location. How many of us do it? And how many of us let the society know that yes, this is what I have done, which is directly related to this particular site? No, this is an eye-opener. So here, we need to understand one thing, that whether I have taken up a right subject, whether I am protecting the rights of others, I am equally protecting the intellectual rights of my own. So if at all, the research activity that you have taken up is going to meet all these goals, then probably you are on the right track. And if the answer is no, sorry to say, you need to have one more look at your own efforts to do the kind of research that you are doing. So friends, here I'll just quickly go through the research publication ethics, and all these points are self-explanatory. Honesty, integrity, objectivity, informed consent, beneficence, non-maleficence, and finally, the responsible publication. So friends, here you need to understand one thing, that unless you take care of all these, you cannot claim that you are adhering to the research publication ethics. Beyond that, there are a few more also, which are now highlighted on your screen. Look at it. You need to protect the anonymity of your work. You have to maintain the confidentiality of your work. You cannot be discriminative. You should be non-discriminative. You have to maintain the openness of your research, because once done and published, it should be the part and parcel of the your own proclamation that you have done it, and let the whole world know openly. Very important aspect that I discussed earlier also, that you should respect IPR. What is IPR? Intellectual property rights of our country. Wherever you go, you have international intellectual property rights, and you have each country has its own regulation in this respect, and we need to adhere to it. Beyond that, think of justice. Already I discussed it about earlier also. But now the most important point that I'm going to discuss over here is avoid plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Anyway, I will come to it later also. But what is plagiarism? You know, if you take any research work today and you just go through a search whether the content is plagiarized or not, nowadays so many platforms are there which are letting you know that whether it is a genuine contribution by the researcher or else it is a plagiarized content. Nowadays we are using ChatGPT for several purposes. Right? Now there are AI detectors also. They will let you know, or these platforms will let you know, whether the content is human written content or else the content is machine written content. Means chatbot written content. Okay, that is a new challenge now in the days to come. And already some people are facing. So here, whenever you talk about research publication ethics, you need to remember all these ethical values and principles and adhere them in your own personal life. Let us move further. Because you will think that, okay, sir, we talked about so on and so on. But what exactly happens when you talk about the scientific misconduct? If you refer to the US National Science Foundation, it defines the types of misconduct in 3 different ways. One is fabrication, second is falsification, and third one is plagiarism. Right? Now let us try to understand each one of them one after the other. These are just the terms, but we need to know so that you will be careful while doing your research. One is fabrication. What is fabrication? You know, so many researchers do fabricate their data and results. It's also a kind of manipulation. But if you play with the data, don't you think that automatically it will reflect in the results? Right? The fabrication of data results into the fabrication of your results. So they are all associated. You cannot dissociate with them. The kind of primary input that you get in the form of the primary data, the collected data, whether it is in the form of a questionnaire or else you are using the primary sources for your own scientific research, whatever it may be. If you manipulate that, automatically your conclusions and results are being manipulated. And that is called the fabrication of data and the fabrication of results. It means you are doing intentionally something that is affecting the data as well as your results. Number 2, what do you mean by falsification? Here you see, the people manipulate the research material, the people manipulate the equipments, the people manipulate the processes, the people either change the data or omit the data, and it automatically affects the results. Fabrication is quite a primary stage. But falsification, the word itself is quite apt and suggestive. It means you are doing something false, you are doing something illegal, you are doing something which is not wanted. Falsified content, falsified result. Never follow it, never adhere to it. Neither the fabrication, nor the falsification, and not at all the plagiarism. What do you mean by that? Actually, plagiarism is presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own. Suppose I happen to write an article on sciences, right? Physics, more particularly. And today I say E is equal to mc square is my introduction. How many cases will be registered against me? Okay. Or else, in traditional and individual talent, T.S. Eliot has talked about the objective theory of poetry. If at all I start saying, like, objective theory of poetry is mine, don't you think that the following generations of T.S. Eliot will take me to the court? So here we need to remember that we should never claim, we should never present someone else's work or ideas as if they are either mine or instead of a particular individual. Give credit, properly justify it, and never use that without their prior consent. Because once you incorporate all these things in your own research, if you acknowledge, at least you are following some values and ethics of your publication. The last statement, I put it in red. Please be careful about it. You may say, sir, I don't know, I didn't read, I thought that this idea came from my mind. No. Plagiarism may be intentional or unintentional, but mind it well, it is unethical and illegal. See, ethics relate to your own conduct and misconduct. But when I say illegal, it means you are not following the law of the country. And if you don't follow the law of the country, you will be taken to the court. You will be behind the bars, or else you will be penalized for that. So plagiarism of any kind, whether you have done it intentionally or it happened unintentionally, still it is unethical and it is equally illegal. Let us talk about the associated aspect to it, called intellectual honesty. What is intellectual honesty? Now question yourself, are you honest to yourself? Our moral duty is to be honest to the self. I hope you know the proverb in English, honesty is the best policy. See, if you are honest, you earn respect for yourself and you earn respect from others also. And if you are not, then the whole world is open for you. Do whatever you want, however you want. Likewise, here you have intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty in proposing, performing, and reporting research which refer to the honesty with respect to the meaning of one's research. Whatever that you do. When you are in the position to propose research, be honest. If you are doing certain activity or action, or else doing some practicals or experiments with your research while performing, be honest. Don't fabricate and manipulate. And when you happen to write a report on your research while reporting, be honest to yourself, be honest to your research. If you do that, fantastic. The whole world will appreciate you, and you will also at the bottom of your heart know that yes, it is my, maybe trifle, but my contribution. So it is expected from everybody, from every researcher. Whenever you happen to present your proposals, do it sincerely and honestly. If you are collecting the data for your research, instead of manipulating, let the data be as it is, honestly. And communicate the same in the form of writing your research report. Let the whole world know what research activity you have done. Because the intellectual honesty is the kind of honesty in acquisition. It is the honesty in analysis. It is the honesty in transmission of ideas once you put your report on a piece of paper. So being a researcher, every individual, every person is expected to be intellectually honest to the self. And when he or she knows the truth, the same truth has to be stated, has to be presented, has to be brought to the notice of others. Then only you can give proper justice to your research activity. And this is desperately required. Now I happen to mention research integrity somewhere in my couple of slides earlier. When you talk about research integrity, it means conducting research in such a way that allow others to have confidence and trust in the methods and the findings of the research. That is research integrity. Means they are not questioning neither your procedure nor your method, not at all your findings. This actually relates both to the scientific integrity of the conducted research and to the professional integrity of a researcher. That creates your own aura of performance. That creates your own professional image. So here, you need to remember that in order to do any kind of research. Let us look at this aspect now. There are a few ethical principles of research. As I enlisted 11, but this slide also tells you a few more or else similar. What are these? Ethics with respect to research considerations. There are 11 ethical principles. Earlier also I said, follow intellectual property rights of your country and international laws related to intellectual property rights. Follow them without compromise. Your first priority should be to be ethical, to be very prompt and particular as far as intellectual property rights are concerned. Generosity, conflict of interest, informed consent, integrity, non-discrimination, non-exploitation, privacy and confidentiality, professional competence, professional discipline, and the most important one that I discussed just before, your honesty. See, if you follow all these principles while either writing your research paper or else doing any kind of research activity by going to certain field or place or experimental zone called a laboratory, or else whatever that you are putting on your piece of paper in the form of your thesis object, you have to follow all these ethical principles in your life so that your respect for the work and the kind of respect that you earn from the society will have a certain standard. Friends, while doing publication, we come across so much of data, so many people, so many resources, online, offline, so on and so on. Don't you think that we are into the web of information? We are in the web of resources. We are in the web of sources. Yes, we are. Online sources, offline sources. Here I would like to discuss a couple of aspects which are related to the ethics of publication and ethics of doing research. You might have heard about Sherpa. What is Sherpa? What is Romeo? I'm not talking about any character, either of a drama or a play or any other novel like that. Sherpa is actually an online resource that aggregate and analyze publishers' open access policies from around the world, across the world, and it provides you a kind of summary of self-achieving permissions and conditions of rights given to the authors on a journal by journal basis. Okay, journal by journal. Means it is identified one-to-one kind of action done by. But the question is, how many of us use it? These resources are online. You have another platform called Romeo. Romeo is a kind of service. Okay, we need to pay for services, no doubt. But you get something very authentic. Romeo is a kind of service that has a collaborative relationship with many international partners, those who are into the world of research, who contribute time, who contribute effort to developing and maintaining that particular service. But this service provides you a very legible platform where you will never be deceived. Just to go beyond. Even in our country, certain efforts have been taken by UGC and especially under the name SPPU. It's actually a software tool to identify the predatory journals. How many of you know about predatory journals? I'll tell you one of my very recent experiences. Okay. A couple of theses are there with me now presently in my department for evaluation that came from some other university, from some other state. Right? And usually I'm habitual to read the objectives of the thesis, followed by the research question, and then directly I go to the bibliography to see how methodically the bibliography is arranged. And then I start my first reading of the thesis in order to assess it properly and award certain marks for based on 20 points raised by or provided by the university. But in between there is one process that I execute. I am tempted always to read the research papers published by the respective researcher. Very recently I came across a researcher who submitted his thesis for PhD to a very reputed university in our country. I'll not name it now. Again, it will be unethical to mention the name. The scholar published his article in the predatory journal. Because once I saw that name, it was mentioned as UGC care listed. Immediately I was tempted to find out. What did I do? I went to Uni Pune website, UGC website. I searched over there. I just logged in from my own account of SPPU and entered that data. As soon as I entered the data and got the details of that particular journal, the publication made by the researcher was in the predatory journal, but not in the original journal. Name, number, ISSN, everything the same. But it's not original. When I tried from the provided website link that told me that so and so journal publishes only in one Indian language, whereas the paper was published in English language. And English was not the language of publication of that particular journal. Now, what to do? So here, we need to be very careful while publishing our own articles also. Approach to the right publisher, approach to the right journal, whether it is UGC care listed or peer reviewed or else refereed or else it is Scopus, whatever it may be. We need to be very careful. And a recent analysis says that so much of publications which are happening in India, Nigeria and some African countries, Middle East countries and other developing countries, most of the publications are published in the predatory journals. This is very unfortunate for all of us. And it's a big problem now in front of the academicians like us. So I would suggest all of you, before you find out or before you finalize that who is going to publish your research article or research, please go to SPPU, okay, and then search the right article, search the right publisher, that is in the form of the journal. Go to the link provided by UGC platform. Don't search on general Google, engine. It will misguide you and take you elsewhere. Because all engines will provide you so much of data. You will not be able to find which is the authentic one and unauthentic one. So this software tool is very, very useful, and please, I would suggest all of you to just go through it, open your own account there, and before making any kind of publication, ensure that whether you are sending your research paper, your research reporting to the right publisher or journal or not. One more, free online bibliographic journal selection tool is there called JANE, J-A-N-E. It means journal, okay, author, name, estimator. That is called JANE, J-A-N-E, and it is available freely. You just open your account, keep using it for bibliographic journal selection tool. So this journal selection tool which is also known as journal matching or journal comparison tool, are popular resources nowadays that help the genuine researcher to determine the most appropriate Scopus journal whether to publish our article over there or not. So I would suggest all of you to use this particular free online tool also as the journal or the name estimator. Okay, journal or the author name estimator, COTJ. So friends, there are so many areas, so many aspects that we talk. But now, the most important thing that I would like to tell you before I conclude my presentation is never fail in doing your genuine research. Always be successful. If you are ethical, you will be successful. If you avoid plagiarism, you will be successful. Right? You know, most of the time what happens? This is going to happen. See, this particular image which is now displayed on your screen. Okay? Peeping somewhere, typing somewhere or writing somewhere. Is it yours? No. Never do it. Never follow it. Plagiarism is the act of presenting others' work or ideas as your own. Don't do that. It is unethical and it is equally illegal. So say no to plagiarism and always be ethical when it comes to the publication of your own research. So while doing this particular presentation or preparing this particular presentation, I should also proclaim that, okay, I happen to use so many websites for content, so many websites for images and all that, and the credit goes to all these references. With this kind note, I express my very sincere gratitude to the organizers for giving me this particular opportunity to present my ideas on this particular topic. And once again, I express my gratitude to Professor Bedre sir for giving me this opportunity, principal of this Nutan Maratha College, Jalgaon, and the members of organizing committee. So I hope I could make my point, and over to you, sir.